back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina, and today we're talking about friendships ending. We talk a lot about friendships, how to make friendships, how to maintain adult friendships, but we haven't talked about how sometimes they end. So today, Nicole and I are just sitting down and sharing our experiences and our philosophies behind the end of friendships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've all experienced like friendships ending in some way, right? Like whether we drift apart, it's a, hard breakup of a friendship, or, you're ghosted by your friend, okay? That happens, and I think that can be really hard in a lot of ways.
It is. I think for so long, our friendships are very circumstantial, right? So the friendships we have as kids are people we're like literally living near.
Yeah.
Stutter much. There we go. And when you get to college, you make new friends, but you're still, depending on the size of school you go to, you're still in like a kind of curated pool of applicants, so to speak. And so by the time you're an adult, you maybe have kept friends from your childhood, from high school, from college, and then you're making new friends. And then but your pool. And now a word from our sponsors. Do you hate your job? Do you feel like everyone around you has their career together and you're stuck in another soul-sucking job for what feels like 100th time? Are you asking yourself why it's so hard to find work that makes you happy? I want to tell you about my friend Serena and her program, Get Me Out of This Job. She's a career coach, and her program, Get Me Out of This Job, helps you find confidence and clarity in the next steps of your career. Serena helps you build a career around your life instead of you feeling like you have to build your life around your career. And I did her program, and it was life-changing. Before I worked with her, I worked 9-to-5 jobs and just was so miserable. I couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy. I went from job to job. And then after I worked with her, I became an entrepreneur, a writer, an author, a podcaster, and just gave me so much clarity, life-changing. So the best part is mention Gen20 and you get 10% off your coaching package. Head to getmeoutofthisjob.co to learn more, or follow her on Instagram at getmeoutofthisjob. Of people you're meeting is so different, and you're all coming together at different places. So when I moved to LA, I immediately clicked with this one woman who, this is a happy ending. I feel like I'm like prepping it. We're still friends. But I immediately clicked with this one woman who's like 10 years older than me. And we happened to be at a networking event, and we sat next to each other and we're just chit-chatting and realized we live near each other. So we took the train home together so we could continue talking. And our lives are so different, but we had such important commonalities that she became one of my closest friends in such a short amount of time. I'd never bonded with someone so quickly. But on the other side of things, when I was living in a different town, I was friends with someone that I knew through work, and I enjoyed her company for the most part, but we were both kind of going through emotionally hard times. And as our friendship progressed, I realized it was not a good fit. Like, I was not my best self. I was actually a terrible friend to her because I couldn't be what she needed, and she was taking out her feelings about life on me. And I had to have like a sit down conversation with her, which of course was over text message because that's how millennials communicate. But I essentially had to break up with her. And it was so bizarre because I had never had a friendship end like that. Usually they just, you move to college or you moved out of state and you don't stay in touch. So that was a really, I think, hard but important process where I learned I had to communicate what I needed in a friendship because I couldn't show up and like let myself down every day by being a poor friend to her. And I couldn't live in that uncertainty of like, oh, is she going to be mad at me today? Did I do something? Did I forget to do something?
Yeah, I think that's really stressful. And I think we have to remember that friendships are two-way streets, and they are truly, relationships. Like both people are bringing something to the table, to the relationship. And it's like we had a conversation with Dr. Carla Manley that came out a few weeks ago. When we're recording this, it's actually this week. But she said that it's like we all bring something to the relationship, and it's like we also need to figure out what we need from the relationship. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's just not a good fit. And like, that's okay. Like, it's okay for people to move on. And for me, I did have a friendship in college. Well, I guess several college friendships, but one was with one of my college roommates, and like we were good friends before we became roommates, and then we became roommates, and then she like we were all kind of like having like meeting new friends and like meeting new people. And like one day she was like, it was like me and another friend were like in our dorm room, and we were like, oh, let's go do this. And she, I guess, ended up being really, my roommate, not the friend I was with, she ended up being very upset that we didn't invite her. And I
Mhm.
was very confused because I was like, you weren't even here. Like, it wasn't something we were planning to do and like leaving you out of. We just like, it was a spontaneous thing, but she was like very hurt by it. And then I was just like trying to explain myself. Like, I don't, but like, why am I trying to explain myself to you? Like, this is just something that happened. Like, no one was trying to hurt your feelings by leaving you out. So after that, I tried to make more of an effort to like invite her to things. But like, she would sometimes go do things like with our other friends and then tell me about it later. And I was like, that's great. I'm glad you had fun. Like, it
Mhm.
literally didn't offend me at all. So I feel like that's just an example of how sometimes things with your friends like aren't in alignment. And that's just like, I mean, it's okay that it's that way.
Yeah, I think that that idea of alignment is really important in friendships, especially as you grow as an adult, because
Mm,
you're like you're married, a mom of two boys. We were just talking about how hectic your schedule is just surrounding like the boys' activities. It's
mhm,
so hard to make time for yourself, let alone friendships. And I think
mhm,
there needs to be a level of alignment where people can understand where you're coming from, even if you aren't in the same place of your life, right? Like I am not married and I don't have children, and it does not affect our friendship because I know where you are in your life and you know where I'm in my life, and we meet each other in the middle. But I
mhm,
think I was talking about it with another friend of mine who was saying she was realizing in her 30s that some of her friends were no longer in alignment, and she was trying to decide like what to do about it. And it's like it's that age old question of like, all right, well, do you ghost them? Do you drift
mhm.
away? Do you just like stop like making an effort, or do you
Yeah,
have a hard breakup conversation with them? And it's
yeah.
there's like no right answer.
I don't even think that you necessarily have to like do anything. Like, it's okay if you naturally drift apart. And I have also been kind of ghosted by a friend, which
Hmm.
is sort of the story that inspired this episode. Because there was this woman that I was friends with, like very close friends with,
I haven't
for
even met
pretty
her.
much, yeah, pretty much a whole year. And like, I saw her like many times a week, and she she really just physically disappeared from my life. Like, she just left. I like she moved away. I don't know exactly how to phrase it.
Hmm.
But yeah, she just like left, and we did have a little bit of like a riff at the end of our friendship. And we definitely like didn't repair that, I guess. But it's like a weird thing because I feel like there's just no closure on that relationship for me. And it's been
Hmm.
almost 2 years now, and I feel like it's a weird thing to reach out about despite the fact that I've like thought about it a lot over the years. But it's also not something like I don't sit and think about it every day. It's not something that like plagues me, but it's like something will happen and I'll have this like memory,
Hmm.
and I mean, I was friends with her in Seattle, and I don't live in Seattle anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's like we were really good friends the last year of, me living in Seattle, and before the pandemic and everything. So the last year we like could do anything. So
Hmm.
she's like a big part of a lot of those memories that I have. And it's just, it feels weird, like that she's not part of my life, but
Yeah.
also it's fine that she's not part of my life. I don't know. It's a very like weird thing that I think is going to take a while to close completely in my heart, but I don't know. I don't know if the right thing is to reach out because I don't know if it's like a friendship that should be rekindled.
Yeah, as you were talking, and I remembered a friendship I've had that similarly just kind of disappeared, and I never understood why. And I did try to reach out, and I never got a response. Like I
Mhm.
reached out to continue our chatting and being friends, and then I once kind of asked, like, "Hey, I've noticed a change. Did I do something wrong?" Because that's my anxiety, is that I've always done something wrong to upset someone. But
Mhm.
I asked, and I never got closure. And I think that's, I guess, like all relationships, romantic or friendships or whatever in between, there's going to be those moments where you don't get closure, and it's hard because you want to know why. And
Mhm.
but
I mean, sometimes I guess there's just not really like an answer, you know?
mhm.
Like it just is what it is sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where if you've got a really good support system and then you have a friendship end, it's something where you can say, okay, I might not understand it right now. My heart might hurt, but I know that I still have people in my life that love me and accept me, and I will be okay. And it could be that this friendship has met its end in a natural cycle, and I'm meant to have space to meet someone new, because you never
Mhm.
know who you're going to meet.
Mhm.
When your boys start going to elementary school, you might make new lifelong friends. Like my mom is best friends with one of my childhood best friends because we were in the same ballet class, and that's how they met.
Aw, that's
So
so sweet.
you never know who's going to come into your life when you need it most. But that
Mhm.
means we have to be okay with like letting go of people who want to be let go.
Yeah, that's really true. And it's just I don't know, it's kinda like maybe things just fall out of alignment like we've been saying, and it is okay even though it's hard, and, like Marina, have you mentioned this yet where you had to have a hard breakup conversation with your friend? And I feel like that's something that's, like, kind of uncommon to have
I
to be like, "I have to cut this friendship off."
Yeah, I that was the first and only time I've ever done it. I was probably 25, and I had lost
Mhm.
friends before. I remember distinctly not understanding why this girl I was close with in maybe like middle school or high school wanted to stop hanging out with me, because we went from being so close, and then like in weeks we weren't close anymore.
Mhm.
And I realized she just didn't think I was cool enough,
Mm.
which is fine. I'm cool in my own way, but
No.
that was hard. I think all the friendships where I didn't have that like distinct closure have been harder to let go of. Whereas
Mhm.
the friendship that I had to break up with, I was just pushed to the point where, like, I'm very conflict adverse. It's something I've been working on, with being more direct and being less afraid of ruffling feathers. But I got
Mhm.
to a point where I was so miserable in this friendship where I realized I'm being kind of a jerk to her, and I don't ever want to be that. She doesn't deserve that kind of friend, but I don't deserve this kind of friend from her.
Mhm.
And I remember distinctly, the conversation started with me kind of like realizing I had done something jerky and maybe like snapped at her in a text. So I reached out and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I feel like we should maybe talk. I've been feeling some kind of way." And I didn't intend to have this like, I don't want to be your friend anymore
Mhm.
conversation. And it was just like she kept pushing back at me. And finally I was like, "Well, honestly, like I need a break. I don't want to be your friend anymore." And it just came out. And I was
Mhm.
just like thinking, "Oh wow. Yeah, that's how I really feel."
Yep.
And I know she was very surprised. She thought we were much closer. And I said, "I'm sorry. I don't feel that way, because maybe
Mhm.
it's that I haven't been able to communicate to you what my needs are in a friendship, but this isn't it. Like, it's not okay the way you
Mhm.
treat me.
Mhm.
And it's not okay the way I treat you. You deserve a better friend than what I'm giving you."
Yeah. It's just not a healthy relationship all around.
Yeah. And I've never looked back. I did have some dreams where I ran into her, but that's more of like a conflict fear thing.
Yeah.
Um, but, but yeah, I don't ever look back. I think in all the friendships that have been in my life that have like ended one way or another, some of them I'm sad that they ended, but I don't ever regret it. I don't think, "Oh, I really should reach
Mhm.
out to them."
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like an important distinction because actually you talking now just made me realize that there is a way that friendships end that we didn't really
Ooh.
discuss as we were talking about this episode. And I think that's actually like having a fight, like a big fight. Because I guess
Oh,
that could be
'cause
like a hard breakup, but that's not how we were thinking of it.
and I don't have you ever had a fight like that?
Kind of.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't fight with my friends. It was I mean, maybe when we were in, like, high school, it was, like, passive aggressive quietness, like, cold
Yeah.
shoulder, but I've never had, like, a screaming fight or anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not necessarily like like I'm like I feel like when I'm thinking of like your hard friendship breakup, you're like, okay, we can't be friends anymore. This is over. But like a fight is just something that like you argued about, like you had to be yelling or whatever, but it was just never resolved,
Mm,
basically.
mhm.
That's where I'm like thinking the difference is. And in college, there was this I always want to say girl, so I'll just say girl. There was this girl. And we were good friends for a while. Like we worked in like the same job and lived on the same floor, whatever. And I don't even know what happened, but we just like I don't want to say I don't know how to explain it really because I'm not actually sure. Like I can't like pinpoint what the fight was, but there was
Mhm.
definitely friction. And we just kind of like parted ways. And I did see her on campus once and she, like, just booked it the other way, and I was like, "Okay."
Classic.
I don't
Classic.
even know, like, exactly what the situation was here, but after, like, we graduated, it was probably, like, a year or 2 later, I did, like, send her an email, and I was like, "Hey, I just, like, thought about this, and I don't really know, like, why we stopped being friends, like, when we did, like, I'm not like, I literally have no memory of, like, what happened, so maybe I was, like, a horrible friend, like, I don't know. Um, but we talked about it and, like, it, like, neutralized, basically, like, I mean, we're not really, like, friends now, like, we don't talk or anything, but, like, I feel better knowing that, like, we've repaired the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, I think you always wanna put your best foot forward or your best foot backward, so
Mhm.
I, it's funny as we record that we talked about this episode before we recorded it like we do for every episode, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Great, I know these 2 examples, those are the only friendships I've lost," and now I'm thinking about all of these other friendships that have
Yeah.
faded away for whatever
Mhm.
reason. Um, I will say I once had a friend who treated me very poorly, and I was very insecure with myself in high school, so I just let her treat me this way. And then like years later in college, we were meeting up and we were talking about it. And I kind of was a little bit braver. So I kind of mentioned it. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, I was taking it out on you because I was mad because of like XYZ. And she basically admitted that she knew she was being a total jerk to me, but she thought that I was so privileged that I deserved it because
Wow.
I was like pretty or something. And I was like, well, and I never talked to her again. I just that's
Yeah.
where I ghosted. This is probably the only time I've ever ghosted anyone where I just like was like, I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah, I think that was the appropriate response because, like, what the hell?
Yeah. But
That's so weird.
it's like, hopefully we're all trying to be our best selves and be kind to others. And if you're not trying to do that, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, but maybe like ask yourself some questions. But if if you're trying to be your best self, you want to be your best self for others and be a good friend to others. And if you aren't able to be a good friend to them, maybe ask yourself what's out of alignment because it's okay. It's okay if it's out of alignment. It's okay if you need to end things, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like
Mhm.
we will
Or
you
even
will be
take a
you'll be
break
okay.
from a person. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely times where I'm just like, I don't I like, what the phrase that comes to mind is "not in the mood." I'm just, like, not in the mood to be this way that I am with this friend.
Mhm.
Like, I was talking to one of mine and Marina's mutual friends, and I was like, you have the friend that you go to, like, Target at 10 p.m. with, like,
Mhm.
you have that friend, but, like, you're not always in the mood to go to Target at 10 p.m., but you have those times, so it's like, I don't know, like, you need your friends differently is how I see it. Not any two relationships are the same. And something that I've started doing recently in my friendships is like before I'm like venting to someone or like Like something that's come up a lot this particular week is I'm like, do you want to hear something really sad? You
Mm-hmm.
can say no. And I give people the option to tell me no. Like I'm not upset if you tell me no. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to say no.
Well,
Like, you know.
I was on the receiving end of that and I so appreciate it. Um, but I think it's something to talk about too, where it's like you're helping set boundaries in friendships where
Mhm.
I know for so long I was so afraid to upset anyone that I would say yes to everyone and like overextend myself and then burn myself out and then disappoint everyone, including myself.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress, but I've worked really hard to set these boundaries and say no more
Mhm.
than I say yes. And um, do you want to share that piece of advice you got about boundaries and why you're setting them?
Oh yeah, so I was talking to another friend this week. Well, it's the same friend I mentioned at a time earlier, but whatever. She said that boundaries are for you and not for the other person. And to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, you put boundaries in new words for me. I'm
Mhm.
seeing them in a new light. And Marina and I were talking, and I was basically saying that it's like you're riding a bus together and you're like, this is my stop. I'm getting off. You can keep going. This isn't about like you, it's about me. Like this is where I'm getting off the bus, but enjoy your ride.
Mhm.
Like, and that's kind of what boundaries are like. And I feel like that's like a mental flip flop that I think can be really helpful when you're setting boundaries and explaining them to other people because, like, and a lot of times I think when it comes to boundaries, like, it's really not you, it's me.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm in a bad mood and like I'm not mad at you. I just need space. Like,
Right.
you
But
know?
I'll still say, "Hey, are you mad at me?"
And I'm like, no, it's just my brain is not working right today.
And we're both working on those boundaries. But I think the important thing you're talking about, Nicole, is that it's not boundaries are not a punishment. It's a
Mhm.
protection, right? And so I heard this phrase once that made really resonated because I used to be so afraid to set boundaries. And the phrase is something like the people who are upset when you set boundaries are the people you really need boundaries from. And when
Mhm.
I think about every time I've set a boundary with a friend and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that," or "Hey, can I get a rain check?" All of my friends who respect me and my boundaries, all of them are like, "Okay, yeah, totally understand." It's the
Mhm.
friends who don't like being inconvenienced or whatever it is that's in their world that's upsetting them. Like they're making it about them when it's not. And they're the ones who
Mhm.
need the boundary because they will continue to take and take until you have nothing left to give.
Mhm.
So I think that's important to think about as we maybe reevaluate our friendships in the next couple of years, not in a way where you like doing your taxes, but just if you're heading back to the office and seeing people in person, it's different
Mhm.
now. I think a lot of relationships and friendships changed over the last 2 years for a lot of reasons. And that's okay to let them change. And it's okay to let them go or to say, "Hey, this doesn't this doesn't serve me anymore." I
Mhm.
think friendships, that sounds so transactional, but I do believe that friendships are meant to like help you be a better person, help you be a better friend, help you be inspired. So if it's not helping you do those things, you don't.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Vandemonium Design creates wonderfully nerdy artwork that won't freak out your dinner party guests. Products including newly launched notebooks are stunning, chic, and wholly celebrate beloved moments in fandom. Visit www.fandemoniumdesign.com to see the full collections and be sure to join the adventure on Instagram at Fandemonium Design.
Have to hold on to it.
Exactly. I love that. And I think that is the perfect place to end this wonderful episode.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the final episode of season 3. We would just want to say thank you so much to listening to this season. And we will be back for season 4, which will look a little bit different. Marina and I have decided that we are not taking guests for season 4. We will be doing more fireside chat styles,
Hmm.
um, podcast recordings. And we would love to open up the submission box to you all. So please email marina@gen20.com with any ideas you have. And if we end up using your idea, we will email you a Starbucks gift card.
We'd love to hear from you. So please leave us a 5-star rating and review, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.